Preparing your New Year's resolution. There's tips and tricks to it. Stay tuned.
Mark, good morning.
How are you, legend?
I'm great. How was your Christmas?
Too much food. I
guess that's not really a complaint, hey?
You?
Yeah, it was good. Like I said earlier, lots of family food and drink, which is always good.
It's good. Did you have a big one? How many people turned up?
Oh, look, it wasn't a big one. Went round to the neighbour's place. We're a really small little community up in French's Forest, so it was all well and good. We got a bunch of the neighbours around, but yeah, it wasn't too large.
Yeah, nice. Worried about COVID?
Look, yes and no. As much as we wanted to celebrate, you've obviously got to think about it, but I think it was pretty far on some people's minds.
Just get on with it. So this morning we're going to have a bit of a chat about setting a New Year's resolution. There is an art to it, and there's rules that you got to follow with your New Year's resolution to have a great New Year's resolution. We thought, Charlie and I were talking before we came on air, we thought this is the opportune time to put the fine tuning on your New Year's resolution before you make it.
Yeah.
Charlie, what do you reckon?
Look, exactly that. Look, we've come out of the Christmas break now. I know you more than ever are keen for the new year, and to see what I guess everyone's got in store after the shocker year we've had this year. I'm sure 2022 holds just as much surprise. But coming into the new year, what we can do as individuals is make sure we know what we want to have achieved, put in specific goals, not only in property but in our life, and have just a crack at 2022. And make sure we're in the right place going forward, no matter what the year throws at us, we're ready for it, we're staying strong. But yeah, like you were saying, there are definitely specific tips and a kind of guide that you can follow to make sure that your New Year's resolution and your goals going forward go that extra mile in regards to being achieved, and not just something that's swept under the rug 2 or 3 months in.
So we're going to spend 5 to 10 minutes just about the rules of setting a New Year's resolution, and then we're going to relate these back to property. So how particularly if it's a property related New Year's resolution, how this format can relate back to that, but not necessarily property. You can relate whatever dream you have, but let's get into it.
Yeah, look. So I'm just having a quick look through now. The few of the goal points that they have specifically written down. The first one being making sure your New Year's resolution or your goal is specific. Now it's important that you know exactly what you're trying to accomplish before going for it. And I guess the experts believe when it's too wide set, so when you leave too much room to move, you kind of tend to sway on your goal. One goal becomes another goal, and then you don't end up sticking with it. So the first step here is making sure you've got a specific goal in your mind, a specific resolution you want achieved, which you can work towards every day. Now they've got tips on having it written down. Like I was saying, having it written down, a clear little sentence stating exactly what you want to happen. Can go a long way in regards.
Okay, so being specific, guys, let's relate this back to property. So be specific about exactly what you want. And I think a lot of people are a bit herbal and stuff. They always say visualize or whatever you do. So go and see the properties that you love. Go and see the properties that you can afford. We'll talk about that in a sec. But be specific about what you're exactly after, and have that right in the center of your mind. So it may be, going from a 3-bedroom family home to a 5-bedroom home. It may be getting an extra living room, getting an extra bathroom out of your house. And how are you going to do that? By way of renovation or by way of selling and buying? It may be your first home, getting a one bedder or two bedder, get that price specific, get that accommodation specific, exactly what you want. So square it up in your mind is rule number one. What's number two?
Lovely. Number two is measurable. Making sure a goal is measurable is probably the best step. As humans, we're adaptive creatures. We like to see progress along the way. So we like to see that our goal is being slowly built up from the ground up. Now, in terms of real estate, this might be being more adept with the market, making sure you know exactly what's going on at all times. I'll let you speak on that more later. But the next step in regards to setting a New Year's resolution is making sure it's measurable, making sure you can see the steps going along the way. You can measure your goal, you can compare it to where you started, and you can look at the progress you've made.
So that may be, relating that back to property, guys, with your New Year's resolution, maybe having some certain savings milestones, by saying, look, I realise I need to have a deposit of 25,000 or 35,000, 5% deposit, and I realise that I need to be saving by every quarter. I need to be saving this much by every month. That means I have to be saving this much, and by every week, that means I have to be aiming to saving this much. So having those milestones really nicely set out, guys, I think it really does your head in, having a New Year's resolution that's too big and not manageable. But having those set milestones along the way, great idea.
Yeah, well, that's what everyone does. That's what all the experts are talking about now. As humans, we are an all in it kind of race. So we all go in it at once. You've come to the end of the new year. You list off all the things you want. At the end of the year, I want to be driving a Ferrari by June. I want to be in a mansion by July. And while they are good things to envision, it's not achievable going from where you are now to your dream property, your dream, I guess, goal. You've got to start small. You've got to make it specific, and you've got to make sure it's actually achievable, which is the next step here. Making sure it's achievable.
I remember John McGrath always used the words chunk it down, chunk it down, chunk it down. So break it down into chunks, make it manageable. What's
Definitely
the next one?
So. Next one is achievability. So making sure your goal is actually achievable. And it ties into exactly what we were saying just a moment ago. Some people set their goals, set their resolutions way too high. And then I guess have to chunk it down with this next step. Just making sure your goal is achievable, making sure it's realistic, and making sure it's for the right reasons with yourself.
Okay, now breaking that back to property, if property is your New Year's resolution, this is something first home buyers often do, or people often do. It doesn't have to be the forever move, and it doesn't have to be that I'm going to live in move. And Charlie, what I mean by this is often you have a family, they've been stuck in the rental cycle for 11 years, 12 years, 16 years, whatever, and they're like, I just can't get the deposit for the house together. You've got to chunk it down again, make it manageable, make it achievable. And the way you can do that is you can buy the family of three or family of four can buy a studio apartment, or they can buy a one-bedroom apartment and they can rent that out. So it's a much more fun goal to achieve it rather than a goal never to get it and miss it every single year in, year out, where it's very degrading, very demoralizing. It gives you the shits. Chunk it down, make it achievable. So guys, don't think of that dream property that is too long away in the dream. Think about what's under your nose and what you can do this year. That might mean you buy a one-bedroom investment or two-bedroom investment, and you continue renting where you are, and that's achievable, and you'll do it. And a quick tip that I don't want to miss is the pattern you set over the next 30 days is generally how long you need to hold the pattern. You need about 30 days. So if you can do this and you can make this New Year's resolution for property, and you can hit these milestones over 30 days, you should be good for the next 12 months. But just focus on what's under your nose. Make sure it's achievable, what you do. Before, chunk it down.
Yeah, great advice. Definitely a good one. I think that's probably one of the bigger takeaways. One of the biggest takeaways in regards to these. But yeah, moving on to the next one, making sure your goal is relevant. Now, this means specific to yourself, looking at your specific circumstances, not looking at what the market's doing, not looking at what your neighbors are doing down the road, looking at what's relevant for yourself and what will be the best move for you. Does the goal matter? Are you making it for the right reasons? Stuff like that. Are you not too emotionally invested that your emotions are getting the better of you? Stuff like that. It's a really make it a sit-down decision, which you think is going to be the best for yourself, which is something you can definitely work towards.
Do you know what ethos I've always lived by, which you can wrap around what you just said?
Put it on me.
Doesn't matter in 5 years.
Definitely so. Yeah, I've heard that
in 5 years.
I've heard that one in regards to worrying and about stuff like your day-to-day worrying. If it's not going to matter in 5 years, why worry about it now? Stuff like that. But yeah, definitely so. If it's not going to matter in 5, 10, maybe even 1 year, why does it matter now?
And it's relevant. Do you know what I mean? So you may be feeling some sort of emotion on your New Year's resolution, and that may pass very quickly and may not be relevant by the end of the year or the middle of the year or in your life at all. But when you apply that rule of does it matter in 5 years, then suddenly it crystallizes whether that is the true goal or not. So I think if you're trying to qualify is the relevance of your New Year's resolution, think about how much it matters to you in 5 years' time when you look back. Again, relating that back to property for the fourth item, relating that back to property is, when that property ownership that you have 5 years later, are you going to look back and be cheering, or are you going to look back and go, I'm an idiot for doing that? Big way to look at it.
Definitely so. And it really, relating to all areas there. The fifth and final one, and I think it's a really good one to kind of close everything together, is making sure your goal is time bound. So giving yourself a specific time frame. Now, of course, taking in time for, a month here or there, back and forth. However, making sure your goal is time bound. If you leave it open-ended, give yourself 2 or 3 years to get a goal achieved, you're just going to put yourself subject to procrastination. So making sure you know exactly what you want, making sure it's specific, measurable, relevant, and achievable within a certain period of time. So it can really start to put the pressure on you, making sure that you're doing the things that you need to be to achieve the overall goal. But say giving yourself 6 months to work up a deposit that you need, or however long it might take, but along the lines there.
And I think that you don't want to hurt yourself as well. So you don't want it to go on for so long that you can't see yourself achieving that goal. As in, if it's a 5-year plan or 1 year plan that you're doing with your New Year's resolution, you want, like you said, those bite-sized chunks. You want to make it achievable with shortcoming and feel good. I think it's a little bit like weight loss. You want to make sure that you're getting towards that goal along the way, and then by having a time frame on it, you're going to do it. And I think also with it's quite that time frame that you're putting on it. Just make sure that you're hitting those milestones, because if you don't hit those milestones, you just feel like shit. So another thing that I find doing, which is not on the top 5, but on the way out, I do want to say, is share your dream with people. I know they say your New Year's resolution, they say, I think you're not meant to tell anyone. But I do have to say,
I think it's the right people that you can share with. I don't think go around preaching to the choir, telling everyone what you've got in store. I'm a big believer of moving in silence.
The right people. Okay.
However, telling your circle, telling the right people who might be able to help you along the way is definitely important. But yeah,
they'll hold you accountable. Yeah, they'll hold you accountable. So whether it's your partner, whether it's your parent, whether it's your good buddy, or the person that actually has that dream that, you know, maybe they're in that property and you're saying, oh, now I want you to help me get into a property, and they've got a property, share those dreams. And that is a wrap for New Year's resolutions.
Wonderful. Make sure everyone's on their way to have an amazing 2022. That's subjective opinion there, but not a worry. That's what these discussions are about.
I think you changed. I think you halfway through. You said your circle of influence.
Look. I think if you run around telling everyone what you've got in store, yes, you've got judgments, you've got good advice, you've got bad advice. But I think if you're telling people who aren't close to you, they tend to just drag you down. And we've all heard of dream killers. We've all heard of people who say it's not realistic. It's not. Why do this? You should be doing this. Who generally just put you down. And if you're like myself, and like many out there who I don't think are quite adept with the property market, it won't take much to kill a dream, or tell you to wait 5 years or do any of that. So I think if you've got something, definitely do your research. But yeah, tell the people who are going to help you, rather than stick it in your face.
Yeah, and I personally find it's failure is a motivator for me. So if I have it out there in my circle of influence, I don't want to let the team down. So I sort of it sort of motivates me, pushes me a little bit, because my buddies are watching, sort of thing. So I don't want to let them down as well. So all right, that's a show. Thank you.
Wonderful. Not a worry. Well, have a lovely New Year's, everyone. And I'm excited for what 2022's got to bring.
What's your New Year's resolution?
Look, I think I just want to keep killing in real estate. Just keep working on my rap sheet. So
nice.
I might have to apply some of the tips I gave earlier and really sit down and get a bit of a goal going.
Luke, I want to know your New Year's resolution, buddy. No one thought I could run for a year. 4 years later, still running. Luke has not missed one day in 4 years.
That's
one of the most driven, inspirational men. That's incredible. Mine for this year is 10 kilo. He's going down to 103 kilos. That's embarrassing. I've just told everyone.
Right. No worries.
All right. Take care. Let's just make it 100 kilos.
Look, we'll make it a nice round number.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching, Charlie. Thank you, buddy. Cheers.
No worries. Speak soon, Mark. Bye.
Bye.